2 years ago this month, President Trump issued his controversial travel ban. Thousands of people were prevented from entering the United States when it went into effect, and many were on flights as it was being signed. Tonight, a local attorney is speaking out against the president on immigration. Chris Richardson wrote an op-ed in the LA Times saying in part, quote, "President Trump won, and he wins every day. We do not talk about how the travel ban affects real people. Arguably, it will stand as the most successful immigration initiative of his presidency, as the only wall Trump successfully built." Chris Richardson is a former U.S. diplomat, and he quit the State Department in protest of President Trump. He now practices immigration law here in Atlanta, and he joins us live in studio. Chris, it's nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Tom.
What prompted you to want to write this op-ed?
This January 27th will be the 2-year anniversary of the Muslim ban being enacted by the president. And I found that in the last 2 years that we as a country have forgotten about that anger and outrage that we had when the initial ban came out. And I felt that this was the perfect time to remind people where many of these things began. President Trump was inaugurated January 20th, and within 7 days he passed this ban. The first people he went after were people of the Islamic faith. And so I felt that this was a time that we as Americans need to be reminded about where all these things began. It began with the Muslim ban, but it didn't end with the Muslim ban. Promptly after that, it was asylum seekers, it was the family separations, and now it's his desire to build a wall.
Well, oddly enough, we are looking at the second anniversary of that inaugural through the lens of the government shutdown. We're now 33 days in, and that's all over the border wall that the president would like to have built, with an emphasis being put on this original $5.7 billion dose of money that would need to go in. There's nowhere near the money that's needed to put up a type of wall like that. But you say everyday people are still being affected just by the travel ban. How so?
Well, promptly after, I waited a year within the State Department after the travel ban, hoping that our government would remember its character. And having that not happen, I decided to quit and re-become an immigration attorney. And in the process of becoming an immigration attorney, I've worked with many, many families, Iranian Americans, Syrian Americans, Yemeni Americans, who simply want to be reunited with their loved ones but can't because of this ban. Today alone, I've gotten 10 or 20 emails and letters and phone calls from individuals who have been separated from their families because of this travel ban. And I think that all of us, we forget about the travel ban because so many outrageous things happen and happen and happen that we forget that this is where it all began, and that people are still, thousands of people are still affected by the travel ban.
So when we think about the push for the border wall and the impact that that's going to have on everyday people, for people that are trying to come into this country legally, what do you say to these people that you're representing that fall under the purview of the travel ban to give them hope that maybe one day they could be here?
Well, what I tell them is that we will work through the process as we know it. There is allegedly a waiver process to the ban, but it's really obscure. No one knows how it works. And using my experience as a former visa officer and U.S. diplomat, I try to help these clients as much as possible. But what I tell them is that we'll do what we can because that's what the values of our country is about, and that I will fight for them, and that there are thousands of immigration attorneys that will continue to fight for them.
All right, Chris, you have your work cut out for you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming in. We appreciate your time.
Thank
Sharon.
you.